Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel Mark TV. So for today's topic, we're going to check on a recent top decks, maybe in standard, in one of the major, as we call as a major tournaments online, which is the MTGO League. So we start with this dates from last July 25th. So this build is the Boros Agro deck by Modis Apiras. As you all know, this is probably the most popular archetype now in MTG Online and also in Arena. As we can check the build based upon the modified ability from Kamigawa. So this is basically you can say as the core creature that activates, wherein the source of the modified ability and trigger. So we can check the lineup, just usual one drops for initiates with reference also from the mono white list with the numeric aspirants, brutal catars, but in addition they also added Commander Faces Kakasan, which adds translucent counters on the next creature spell you cast, so basically making them a modified creature, and also becomes a 2/2 hasty creature in itself. Aside from that, we also have a utility creature with a Bloodthirsty Adversary for the late game and making flashbacks, sort of a flashback effect for your spot removals with mana cost 3 or less. And at the same time, we also have a late game 3 drops with Raiju, of course, and Sunrise Cavalier, which also adding counters on its own, and also trampled haste. So that said, this is basically the build of the Boros Agro deck, which makes it also a popular choice among most of the grinders in this setup. So it's basically not in the first place, but I think this is the record of having an undefeated record for the standard grind for MTGO League. So next up is this, we have a Boros mid-range. Let's check the visual deck list. So as you can see, I think I've also discussed this previous video. We have the build now as a stable with Silver Quill Silencer in the main deck, 4 copies. Aside from that, he also modified as having Raidane, 2 copies of Raidane, maybe because of their ability of making non-creature spells or opponents cast 2 or more to cast, and at the same time is also having Henrika Domati as a utility creature for the 4-drop on its setup. But basically, you can just basically curve with the early aspirants, with the wedding announcements, situation with Ganju, while protecting your creatures or making your opponent's board less by these spot removals. Also having Wandering Emperor as a utility Planeswalker, Elspeth as their late game gas, and at the same time making them modified with flying, first strike, lifelink, vigilance depending on the station. Also with Wolf as the creature defense with their spider tokens. But we might see that they have also Myth of Massacre in case that having a mid-range that facing against an aggressive aggro would let them wipe the board with this spell. So this is the basic setup of this deck. You can also see the sideboard with just a few Archons, discard spells, duress, fracture, and graveyard trespasser against any graveyard shenanigans. So this is the recent black white or Ursa mid-range list. Now we go with Esperafin. As you can, if you have been familiar with the list, it's just basically the same that of Ursa mid-range. It's just that basically having the advantage of Rafin's Scheming Seer with its connive ability is basically a good and very valuable start for the 3-drop. So if you imagine having to curve with this, turn 2 and turn 3 Rafin, and just basically protect them with Spell Pierce or the Cinema Stroke or make disappear, you can basically go wide and win from there. Also with Digital Angel next to gas, we also have Oscura as Receptor. So this build is basically more of the counter and tempo, anti-tempo with the opponent's slow, maybe the opponent's slow start. as they can connive, so when it combines, you can basically bounce a spell, especially very valuable when it's against high mana cost spells of the opponent. So it becomes a 4/2 lifelink also, and it's also a good attacker on its own because of the lifelink. So curving with this is basically game over for most opponents. At the same time, we also have the same lineup of spot removals. This is also an interesting thing to have, as you can have a one play land at the same time. You can deal damage to any number with the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. So you can check. Also have the lineup similar of that black-white winning announcement. We have the Wandering Emperor, lone copies of Emir's Call and Agadem's Awakening, but also with Kaito Suzuki as another mana card source, card draw ability, and at the same time having 1/1s, bunch of 1/1s ninja tokens with the can't be black setup. So what's it like? But probably the fixing would suffice with this, but if ever it would get an ideal curve, you can basically go wide and basically win with the Ice Pyrants and Raffine on your board. So the sideboard similar to that of black-white. Aside from, we also have counter spells and also sweep with depopulate to make sure that aggro situations will be dealt with this instant. That is basically a conditional Wrath of God for the setup. Next, we have Guru Agro. So if you're familiar, Guru Agro is still a good creature setup for this standard metagame. And in this build, we have modified as its main deck strategy because of these creature choices. As you can see, these are not your usual red game opponents, but the value is that you can have creatures with counters on it, so basically making them modified creatures that can trigger abilities such as that of Kodama of the West Tree, also of Guru Guru, which you can activate 5 to make a 5/5 Dragon Spirit creature with flying, and also that of Thundering Raidus basic trigger. So to be able to help your creatures to get modified, you also have counter source such as this one. We have Invigorating Hot Spring, which makes your modified creatures haste, and also having Snakeskin's Bell, which protects your creature at the same time putting counters on it. But also we have natural ways to get counters such as the Swarm Shambler. As you can see, you can put a 100+1 counter on Swarm Shambler. It becomes a 1 to cast 1/1 with the same time. But whenever a creature you control becomes a counter on it, becomes a target of a spell. So you can basically have free creatures with the 1/1 green insect creature token generated for its targeted creatures from your opponents from the spell. So also Galagreaters, also value setup whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, putting counter on it. You can choose to create a tap creature token which you can later on ramp to your 4 drops or 5 drops, and also you can gain 2 life if needed. So overall, I think maybe I'll just try this build on our local gameplay for our local tournament, since I do hope I have most of the components in which modified red-green is still, we can say, as a variable deck choice for an aggro deck in the current metagame. So the rest, these are just a sideboard. This was Pattern Balls, more safe skin, Burning Hands against green, Outland Liberators, Bankbuster for gas against control, and maybe Tangle Trap for killing creatures with flying and destroying artifacts. So we also have Naya runes. We'll end with these last 2 decks, probably deck archetypes in this standard metagame. So Naya runes, if you have also checked these are useful from gaining rune advantage from Kaldheim. So we have basically these cards to enchant maybe your Jukai Naturalist or your Generous Visitor, wherein you can get bigger whenever you cast enchantment spell. And also run for champion when it's you can search for a library for a rune card and you can pay one other normal cost of rune spells you cast. So basically these are making these runes one to cast and chaining with them because for each rune you can see whenever enters the battlefield draw a card. So one mana cost, draw a card and then check another for runes and so on and so forth. So this wall with the setup we have more with the enchantments and also Legion Angel to provide gas in the late game. And just making sure that your creatures gets bigger with this for its rune and Kami Transients also to gain resilience against removal so it can be put back from your hand to your hand from the graveyard. So the sideboard is basically for what most Naya decks would recommend for maybe for a Naya Agro or a mid-range build. We have utility spot removals, portable hosts, that means safekeeping to protect your creatures, also some barrel stands and borrowed time, also in Legion Angel as a source which you can get from the main deck. Okay, so last but not least we have Jeskai Hinata. I'm pretty sure it's still a viable deck, but we can say that it can still have its own engine whenever you set up with Goldspan and Hinata on your board. So this one becomes a Jeskai utility and tempo build, making Jewel Inception, counter spells, make it disappear, spot removals with Surge, Abrade, and Dragon's Fire. At the same time, in the late game, you can go big with the Fable, the Mirror Breaker, Magma Opus, and making sure that your opponent's board is clear with the Burn of the House to make sure to either to produce devil tokens or wipe them out with 5 damage to each of your creatures. So, basically, the same with what most Storm Goldspan Dragons set up. It's not basically having to storm on its own, but with several spells that can make sure that your opponents would not develop their board, and you can go wide with Hinata and Goldspan in the late game. And also adding for like a lands for Whole Storm Giants and the flip version of Fable the Mirror Breaker. So for the sideboard, we have the usual for Jeskai, spot removals, counter spells, Bombaster for the late game, specific counter spells such as Test of Talents, more Valor stands to kill off huge toughness creatures or protect your own, and another copy of Burn of the House to wipe out. For the making sure that we have a mass removal against aggro decks. So overall, that is the metagame. We're gonna say that these are the top decks that you would expect if you're grinding to the rank for MTGO or Magic Arena. So I do hope you can get familiar what each of these archetypes, their main strategy, their win condition, and what cards that may be effective against them. So I do hope this video helps you up. If you do like to more MTG content, you can like and subscribe to our Deathmark TV. So until the next MTG content and upload and related stuff, thank you for watching and until the next time.